Kia ora team, and welcome to another weekly roundup from Te Manawa BJJ. You're here with the Brockman Pete Hodkinson. You can find me on Instagram at GentleArtsNZ and Te Manawa Jiu-Jitsu at Queenstown_Jiu-Jitsu. We're here to give you the last week's worth of content in the gym, and as long as you guys are finding the content useful, then we will continue to make it. So how do we know you find it useful? Like, comment, subscribe. It's just clicking a few buttons, but it means a hell of a lot to us, so please do everything you can to support the growth of the channel and the club. Over the last week, we focused more on X-Guard, but this was all about passing. Let's get straight into that. So to start off, I'd like to comment on a few things about base. My opponent is trying to off-balance me forward and to his right, predominantly because he wants to try and get my hands to the mat, and from there he can start working technical stand-up sweeps or attacking the back. So if he wants to push me in that direction, the first thing I want to do is make sure my base is nice and low, that my knee is turning in towards his hip, and even my left foot is stepping backwards. I want to keep my weight on that side of his body, so it's a lot more difficult for him to push me over. Also, if he extends his legs towards me, it makes it more likely that I'm going to be able to establish a dominant passing position on top of him, rather than him off-balancing me. Once we're in this position, I'm able to start looking to do my first pass. The first pass that we looked at is a long step pass. So I get a C grip on the ankle of my opponent, post on the floor above his head, and that will enable me to backstep over his leg as I take my hip to his shoulder. Again, C grip on the leg, post on the floor, backstep. C grip on the leg, post on the floor, and backstep, establishing a pin. It's really important to note here the detail of taking my hip to his shoulder. That is what allows my leg the space, unless I'm flexible like a Russian gymnast, to get over that sticky hook on the inside of my knee and to the floor. If I'm trying to keep my hips pointed down and I don't drop my hip, I'm just going to get swept and I'm going to look like a dick. So I want to make sure my knee is pointed down and in it, that my hip is moving towards his shoulder and his head as I post on the floor. This is what opens my hips up and allows me to backstep and establish a top pin. For the second pass that we looked at, we're going to need to be able to transfer all of our weight into our right leg, which he is controlling with his scoop grip, either over or under. As I transfer my weight into that leg, I move my foot forwards and then backwards between the gap in the X between his legs. This allows me to then control his legs and establish a top pin. I transfer my weight, my leg kind of zigzags between his legs, and I establish a top pin. In the gi, I'm also able to grab hold of a pant leg grip and a sleeve grip when they're available to anchor myself and also assist in opening up the position when I look to cement my top pin. What I don't want to be doing is reaching out over his body and off-balancing myself in the process of grabbing this grip. I really want to be maintaining my base, and when he reaches up to grab a collar sleeve control, for example, I can grab that sleeve and utilize that control. The other thing is that as he's off-balancing me, I can utilize a sleeve control to prevent him from carrying out a technical stand-up pass. He needs that arm to be able to base on in order to come up for a technical stand-up, and if I take that away, it takes that option away from him, and then I can utilize it to execute my pass. I am also able to use the near side sleeve, but I would prefer to use the crossbody control if possible. This pass is particularly useful in the context of him trying to execute a lumberjack sweep. If I time it right, I can use the moment where he kicks out to kick my leg with that movement and execute my pass. The third pass that we looked at is a split pass. As my opponent starts to off-balance me, I turn my hips towards him, dropping down over his hips, moving my hips forward, and then look to take my right leg over the top of his head to the front and turn into him to cement my passing position. Some of you will remember this pass from our single leg X video as I strip the foot from the hip, punch to the far side of his hip behind my knee, and then look to turn, executing a full pass. Well, in this splits pass, we're able to use exactly that same punching movement down to the floor across his hips and spin all the way around over him to execute the pass. Now in a situation where my opponent does turn his hips towards me looking to pass the X-guard, I can use a technique called the fishnet. I'm able to execute a lockdown on his rear leg and then move his near side leg across the front of my head, establishing a tight hook on his waist, an S-grip around his body as a body lock, and then I can either sweep him back or remove the lockdown, extending his leg away vis-a-vis crab ride, and look to take the back. So here, as he turns his hips towards me, I execute this lockdown on his legs, move his foot to the other side, establish my body lock, and start looking to extend him out, establishing my back control. Frustratingly, we've got the gi in the way here, but you can hopefully see taking the hook that was on his hip and taking it to his ankle, and then repositioning the other foot around in a lockdown. Additionally, it's possible to actually force this position where I take my foot from his hip as I off-balance him to his ankle and use that to drop his knee and then work to establish my lockdown and my body lock. Here you can see the sweep option moving to top control. So again, I can drop my foot hooking into his hip, down to his ankle, and then establish a lockdown, get a body lock, and then look to stretch him out, taking the back. So finally, we took a look at a submission, a toe hold from the top. If my opponent's knee is spread out, I can move it in, reaching over the top and towards my own quad muscle. From here, I simply elevate the ankle towards me with his toes trapped behind my knee, executing a submission. If when I do this, he looks to extend his leg, making it impossible for me to finish the submission, I simply roll over my right shoulder and I can continue to put pressure on the ankle or switch to a standard toe hold grip. Again, I can't quite execute the toe hold because he's extended his leg, so I roll and then I can crumple his foot down towards his butt or switch to a standard toe hold grip and get the finish. So there you have it, guys, another week wrapped up at Manawa Jiu-Jitsu. Thank you so much for all the support so far. I had a look at the channel the other day and we've had growth of something like 128,000%, which is what happens when you start with 2 subscribers, and I may or may not have been one of them. If you do want to support what we're doing here, you like what you see, then please do like, subscribe, comment, every little bit helps. And if you want to help contribute to the gear and the time that it takes to make these videos, then that will be warmly appreciated. There will be a link in the description to the PayPal donations box. Thank you very much, team, and we will catch you next week. Chea.